What if doctors, teachers, public and professional service workers decided to walk away from their roles? Society depends on these individuals to function and to keep people healthy, connected, and educated. Could the world run without them?
So taking it from a 30,000-foot view, without laws, you have anarchy.
Those who work in the medical field are equipped with the knowledge and skills to ensure their patients' well-being.
Mr. Jim Mohern explains his profession as a senior scientist and medicinal chemist. He has worked as a chemist since 2006, switching from Merck to Johnson & Johnson early in 2021. He also speaks about his experiences as a chemist, his milestones, and the impact of his work. Mr. Mohern discusses his day-to-day responsibilities.
I'm a medicinal chemist formally, and what that means is I work on a team to try and make medicine. So at Johnson & Johnson, we work on trying to make medicine in different therapeutic areas. So I work on central nervous system, diseases like Alzheimer's, oncology, so those are cancer, and immunotherapies. So those are things like rheumatoid arthritis and things.
At a certain point in his career, he realized that his job was a perfect fit for him.
I think my job is different than a lot of jobs. Just talking to my friends who have pursued maybe traditional jobs, non-scientific jobs. The thing I like about my job is that I'm not on a computer all day. I work on a bunch of different teams, so I'm constantly talking to other people, interacting with other people, sharing ideas. I have to do a lot of reading and learning. It's not a static field, right? Things are always changing. People are always publishing. So I spend a lot of time reading and learning new things.
He also spoke about his feelings regarding his profession and the joy he finds in his work.
I have the best job for me that there is, really. It's always changing, always learning new things. I interact with people all over the world. I have a team in Belgium I interact with. I manage people in China. We have a team in California that I talk to every single day. So just talking to people from all over the world, interacting with all people from different backgrounds. I think it's provided a lot of opportunities to learn.
What milestones have you achieved so far in your career?
You would think that a nice milestone for someone that tries to make drugs is making a drug, but I've been doing this since 2006 and I haven't made any drugs. I have contributed to a couple programs that have actually gone into humans. We've made some compounds that have gone into humans, but they haven't gotten out of the clinic. So that's really exciting. We always try and celebrate our milestones. You fail a lot in drug discovery. So I think if I had to guess, I'd probably in 17, 18 years probably made on the order of 10 to 15,000 different compounds that have been tested and we've gotten biological data on. And 2 have proceeded to humans, right? So celebrating different milestones, right? We have different stage gates that programs go through. Celebrating those is always a nice achievement. And I've received some awards from, there's a broad network of chemists, the American Chemical Society, so that's nice.
Most importantly, Mr. Mohern talks about how chemists and their work on new drugs can affect society and people.
I think access to healthcare and new novel medicines, right? When I was at Merck, they invented Keytruda, which is this completely novel mechanism for fighting cancer, right? I remember one day we got a letter from Jimmy Carter because that's the medicine that he had to cure his brain cancer, right? And just thinking about that and the potential impact that a discovery like that could have is really exciting. So that's what we're aiming for, right? Is to invent these novel medications that have broad impact on human health.
It is evident that if Mr. Mohern or anyone in the chemistry field quit, there will be a large impact on society. Companies like J&J and Merck are creating new medicines that save lives. If society didn't have a scientist constantly developing new medicines, humans would suffer from a lack of treatment for sicknesses and diseases.
Ms. Lynch is a catheterization lab supervisor. Cardiac catheterization labs specialize in inserting catheters into the human body in order to increase blood flow and save the heart. Ms. Lynch chose to advance her job after 25 years as a cardiovascular technologist.
to go into the clinical part, supervisor role, instead of working as staff. It was just time to move on. And that's what I did. I do have a manager that works along with me. I have a clinical educator that works along with me. We just now got a clinical educator because that was me as well. Like I said, I had 3 roles. I was the manager, clinical educator, and the clinical supervisor.
Ms. Lynch begins to describe her day-to-day responsibilities. In order to be a supervisor, she must monitor their exposure radiation, organize them into lab rooms, and satisfy patient needs.
Hours into doing what I do. So I usually start my day off with staffing. So I in charge of staffing, make sure I have 4 procedural rooms, because we need 3 people per room. There's 3 people in the labs. 1 person circulates the case and gives medication to the patient. 1 person monitors the patient to check the vital signs. And actually, there's 1 person that's scrubbed in with the doctor. So sometimes some cases can go 45 minutes and some cases can go 3 hours. So sometimes I can go in and give them a break. I can jump in any position and to give them a break so they can leave and take a coffee break, 15-minute break, especially if a procedure goes longer than usual.
Ms. Lynch is essential to our society for her contributions to the cardiac care field.
Take care of inventory. So we have tons and tons of supplies. Different vendors come in, so I'll make sure that all our supplies are ready for each case. We have specialty cases that I have to make sure that the vendors are aware that these days the doctor wants to do this particular case. So I have to make sure all the equipment is available for that procedure. Machines, we have a lot of different types of machines that we use to do procedures with, and all that has to be checked during the day. So if there's any inefficiencies, anything that's not working, they come to me so I can try to get the vendors or the service people to come in early in the morning and get machine or x-rays up and running before we start the day with patients.
Ms. Lynch tells us about the trust she integrates into her workplace to find a balance and understanding with her staff.
They can trust me. So your personality and your values take you a long way, and they have to know that they can trust your judgment, your clinical decisions. To ask, when you ask them to do something, they're like, oh, what is she, got me doing now? Or they don't kind of question you as much because they trust you. The staff, they depend on someone that they can trust, somebody that's trustworthy, someone that's transparent, meaning that, they know who they're going to get every day. They're not going to be, this person one day and another person another day. They know that, I'm honest, I'm fair. I treat all the staff the same. No one gets something more than the other. No one gets more privileges than the other. So when they see that, they know that they can trust me.
Miss Marcus is a nurse midwife. She works in a hospital where she helps pregnant women when they are having their child. She helps make sure that the babies are perfectly healthy when giving birth. She can also help with postpartum care. Originally, Miss Marcus wanted to be a lawyer, but then she took a class her last year of college about women's health.
I took a class in college that was about women's health.
During the class, a nurse midwife presented to them, and it changed her idea on what she wanted to be and what she wanted to pursue in life.
Before that, I actually thought about being a lawyer.
Miss Marcus's job, as she tells us, requires a lot of her time. Her shifts are 12-hour shifts from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
I work 12-hour shifts, and I work overnight. I work 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. I work in essentially like an emergency department for women who are pregnant. So it's open 24 hours, people coming and going all the time. So I am seeing women who are pregnant who have different concerns. Some people have high blood pressure, they have headaches, they have a cold, they have COVID. They are having pain, like it's a wide variety of things. So every day looks very, very different, which is actually kind of one of the fun things of the job. How busy I am varies day to day. What I'm doing minute to minute, hour to hour is really different. But essentially, like I said, it's taking care of women who are pregnant and checking on their health, the baby's health, and kind of figuring out what they need next.
Next, we asked Ms. Marcus how her job is essential.
It's literally directly keeping families healthy and safe. So by taking care of women, not just when they're pregnant, but other times as well, helping keep them healthy, helping them take care of themselves, learn about their own health, and obviously, hopefully, helping moms and babies be healthy through pregnancy. Hopefully, we're helping to start healthy families.
Who would be affected the most if you quit your job or your job didn't exist?
Kind of a joke, as we say, almost immediately it would be my immediate coworkers. if my role wasn't there, they would all have to be doing my job for me. But in a bigger scope, it would be the women and families that we take care of. There would be less providers for them, so it would be harder for them to get to get health care and for them and their families to be healthy and safe.
We asked Ms. Marcus what she enjoys most about her job.
I think what I enjoy the most is kind of working with the patients and educating them and helping to make medical things understandable to normal people. Because I think a lot of people, a lot of healthcare providers speak in really big words and don't really explain things to patients or families about what's actually going on. So I really like being able to explain things to them in like a normal language, so they actually understand what's going on with themselves or with the baby.
Lastly, we asked Ms. Marcus if she would suggest people of our age to go into her field.
Personality and a certain interest. But I think nursing in general is a great field because it has a huge amount of diversity that you can do with your degree. It's not specifically just working in a hospital or working in a doctor's office. People work in like a wide variety of settings, and it's also you have the ability to work in one setting for a few years and switch to something else. So there's a lot of ability to change and do different things with that degree. There are people that work, specifically like obviously in the hospital, like in the OR, or that do work outpatient, or that work for drug companies and help run like clinical trials to develop new drugs to help with different diseases. There's just such a wide variety of things you can do with the degree, but you definitely have to have a it's not right for everybody. Just because it's a tough program. It's definitely a tough degree to get. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of it's stressful. It was of my 3 college degrees I have, it was definitely my hardest. It was harder than my master's degree. But like I said, it's just nice that it has such flexibility. So I think for the right person, it's a fabulous degree to have.
Public service workers are essential because their jobs help society run from day to day.
People always think about heroes like Spider-Man and Batman. But what about the people that protect you in your everyday school life? Mr. Washington explains to us how he became a security guard and football coach at CHS.
Well, I like to challenge security guard, make sure you guys are protected, make sure everything's okay around school and whatnot. As far as football, Cheltenham has a rich standing as far as football, real rich history. As you might not know, had about 3 former students that left the building and went on to play in the NFL.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Let's hear it.
So the history here is really rich.
Mr. Washington tells us what he envisioned as his career, and if he actually saw himself being a security guard and football coach.
Not a security guard, no, but football coach. I've been coaching pretty much my whole adult life.
Coach Howie describes other career paths he's interested in.
Well, before I came here in security, I was in the construction field, drywall construction. So I probably would be in that right now had it not been for COVID.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense.
yeah, the rules and everything has changed beyond COVID as far as OSHA, changing everything up.
Mr. Washington tells us how his job is essential at our school.
Oh, it's necessary to keep intruders from coming to the school or harming the teachers and the students. We got to keep the building safe at all times, no matter what.
Mr. Giles works for the United States Postal Service, a well-respected organization around the country for their service work. Their job entails separating and delivering mail. We spoke to Mr. Giles about his job, and he explained some of the issues postal workers encounter with customers.
They do, because they call and say that the package hasn't been delivered, it's been delivered to the wrong place. We are late delivering the packages when there is no set time for packages to be delivered.
He also told us the advantages and disadvantages of his job.
Disadvantages of my job is your body breaks down, you work a whole lot because you work 6 days a week, 8 to 12 hours a day. Your customers appreciate you. Sometimes they, hook you up a little water, a little Gatorade. If you quit, what will happen? Like, is everyone like? If all the carriers if the postal service wasn't the postal service anymore, we could start off with that. Yes. If the postal service was not the postal service anymore, it'd probably be a bit of anarchy because nothing's getting delivered, nothing's being moved. Our job is important because we move things from one place to another in a certain good amount of time. If all that stops, nothing gets transferred, nothing gets moved.
Mr. Philipsak talks about his role as a teacher, firefighter, and military personnel.
I've got basically two careers in life. I got a career in teaching, so I'm here with project-based learning and forensic science. And outside of here, I work in emergency services, which is basically fire department and military.
How does he think each of these three jobs is essential?
In terms of teaching, one of the things you need for any democracy is a well-educated public. If you don't have that, you don't have a functioning democracy. All right. That's the whole argument behind having a public school system and not just a private system. I'm not knocking private schools, but that's the argument behind having a public system that everyone can go to. That way, everyone is educated. In terms of firefighting and EMT, question I'll throw back at you then is what happens if you call 911 and nobody picks up? Okay. And in terms of the military, military side, since I was in the Coast Guard and the Air Force, well, the freedoms that we have, the lifestyle that you have, well, that's guaranteed you by someone. That's the people standing watch on the wall, making sure nothing bad happens. So if you don't have a military, your lifestyle goes away.
That's right, a hard worker, Mr. Philipsak works three jobs. He's a teacher, works for the fire department, and he's in the military. As a forensic science teacher, Mr. Philipsak teaches his students about using science to find evidence from a crime scene to see what happened. When he's working for the fire department, a lot of physical activity is involved, like running into buildings quickly to save the individuals caught in the fire. He also has a lot of responsibilities in the military, from air operations to search and rescue missions on the water. We asked Mr. Philipsak if he originally went to school for these jobs or if any were side jobs.
No, not at all. So I went to school for science. Always loved science since I was a kid. Knew I kind of wanted to be a teacher, but I wanted to do science first. So I'm back for education later. The military and the fire department, I always thought about it when I was a kid, but I didn't get into it until I was in my 20s. That's when I joined the Coast Guard and then later the Air Force and got involved in the fire department. So that all came later. Okay. I'm 42. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Next, we asked Mr. Philipsak to describe an average workday and about his responsibilities.
All right, so for here, I got two sections of PBL, chemistry in grade 10. Then I got forensic science during block 3. So my days here are mostly lesson planning, prepping labs, and then my admin paperwork I got to do here. For the fire department, when I'm down there, usually do like about 2 hours of training, whatever that is. And then, you got your gear checks, equipment checks, making sure those are all good and ready to go. When a call comes in, you drop whatever you're doing, and you're out the door. If I'm instructing, because I teach for the county and state fire academies, I'm an instructor and I'm an evaluator for the fire department. So I teach the courses that have live fire. So that's a lot of paperwork. A lot of paperwork, a lot of setup. You gotta get the building set, all the materials are gonna burn, student rosters, all your safety considerations, and then you actually burn days. So you spend 8 hours literally lighting a building on fire and putting it out, training students. For the military, I do chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear warfare. So I don't launch nuclear things. That's not my thing. All right. But my crew, we're the ones that go, if someone were to use it, we go in there, identify it, mark it, evacuate people, train people on how to go through it. That's my job.
Educators guide the next generation and inspire kids to become contributing members of society.
A Jewish educator is in charge of teaching the Jewish youth, and Ms. Levy was the principal. Ms. Levy would help with academic goals and make sure other teachers had the proper equipment to teach.
I'm retired now, but my job title changed over the years. So I began working in the early 70s, and my job title in the 70s was a very strict title for Jewish education. It was principal. Everyone was a Jewish principal.
Throughout Ms. Levy's time as a Jewish educator, she had to go through change in her work environment several times.
In the beginning, in the 70s, the essential purpose was very strict. You were following a curriculum, you were working straight from the book, you were bringing, as you can tell by the pictures, you were sitting in, your kids were in a desk, you were sending out report cards, you were Mrs. or no, Mr. or in Hebrew, the Ivrit, you were Mora or Moreh, you were very tightly knit. And over the years, things changed. Now when I walk into any synagogue, I am Susan. We don't use desks. I took away all the desks from my school. I was in one school system from K through 12 for 25 years. We removed all the desks. I needed the teachers to be sitting not even this far away from the kids because in Jewish education, you needed to build community and build warmth and love in order to teach Judaism, which was a secondary aspect to education. It was a peripheral kind of education. I have been in Jewish education since high school.
Ms. Levy explains her experience working at a camp and what her job change would have been.
I was asked to come and work at an overnight camp and help with mental health and help be the calm grandmother like addition to the camp staff. And the past in 2022 and 2023, I remained on staff at camp. And if I had 20 extra years in my life to do that, I would have made a professional change and given my heart and soul to working in Jewish camp life. It has been an eye-opener and such a wonderful addition for me to learn about mental health and camp life and just the comings and goings of summer camp and what it's like for Jewish kids to be at camp and what that means for them. It's been joyous and enlightening and an inspiration.
Today, we interview Ms. Lemish. Ms. Lemish has been working at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania as a philanthropy professional for the past 5 years. Ms. Lemish's job entails raising money for Wharton MBA graduates. She helps with the Wharton Fund, which is a donation program that allows the school to operate effectively.
My job involves working with Wharton MBA graduates. So I work for the University of Pennsylvania. And then I work within the university. I work specifically with the Wharton School, which is the business school. And the alumni that I work with are they're business professionals. So they are folks that have gone for 4 years of college, and then on average they've worked 5 years out in some line of work, and then they come back to Wharton for a graduate degree program to get a master's in business administration.
Ms. Lemish talks about why she does her job and chooses to stay there.
So things like keeping the lights on, paying for technology, supporting the IT staff, supporting different programs and research by faculty. It touches everything. I'm in the office a little bit, and then once a month I may be on an airplane and I may go out to California or another state, depending on where I'm reaching out to alumni at.
As a senior associate director for the Wharton Fund, Ms. Lemish is involved in philanthropy for the school.
So I periodically, question, what am I doing? Maybe I should have done something different, especially because I went to school for environmental science. So when I was in high school, I had a very kind of not a clearly thought out plan, but knew I wanted to make a difference in the world. And so for me at that time, and something that I still really care about, is the planet and wanting to help the environment. So I definitely, I'm very pleased and happy with where I am. A lot of it has to do with the fact that the people that I work with are fabulous. And the other piece that I didn't talk about is that I do work with some volunteer committees who are planning their reunion anniversary. So they're then reaching out to their classmates. And so their focus is to get people to come back for reunion and also to ask people to give. So there's a fair amount of work giving them the information they need to be able to fundraise amongst their class.
Ms. Lemish talks about her current project that she is working on right now.
I have two goals. I actually have more than two, but the two primary goals are securing 100 either in-person or virtual by Zoom meetings with donors, and then a dollar goal, which this year I believe will be 1.5 million in ask.
People who offer professional services provide assistance that can help people or companies run their business more effectively.
Lisa Desvey, the director of sales at Word Radio, talks about her job with Gabe and Niles. She was asked, what makes your job essential to society?
Well, the radio station I work for is the only Black-owned Black Talk station in the state of Pennsylvania. So with the upcoming elections, we are essential because we are the only radio station where Philadelphians, specifically Black Philadelphians, will be able to hear the news from a source that looks like them. And then they'll be able to pick up the phone and ask questions about the information that we're sharing. So I think in this time, at this point, it's very essential for people of color to have a trusted news source that they can go to without any bias.
She was also asked, how does your leadership role affect your job?
Really pays for everything at the radio station, people's salaries, any equipment that we need, truck repair and things of that sort. So I'm really the money person at my job.
Apart from how it affects her job, this is what she had to say about her leadership role.
Some days I do and some days I don't. I do like being in leadership. And I was, when I left my last company, I was a vice president of sales, Philadelphia sales manager. And in this role, I'm the director of sales of a radio station, which is just one step away from running the entire radio station. But I do like it because you get to shape and frame the content as well as the advertisers that accompany that content, as far as just being able to get out into the community, what is going on. So I do like it in that role. It's tough when you have to motivate people who don't want to do certain things. And that's where the real managing comes in, because you have to shift your thought process and shift how you engage with people in order to make them do what they need to do in order to help the entire group.
Mrs. Desvey shares her thoughts on working in another field.
At this point in life, when I was in my 40s, I thought yes. And just entering my 50s now, I'm riding this out. But I do want to do something different, which is teaching. Once I'm done, or and I taught at Arcadia last year. That's what I think I'll do when everything is done, just to share the knowledge that I have with upcoming, students. Same as my professor did for me.
And one more question. How does working in your leadership position affect your daily life?
It's up and down. If I have a great day, then I come home and I'm happy. If I don't have a good day, then I come home and I try to get myself together before I walk in the house, so I'm not affecting you guys.
Mr. Moretsky is a business lawyer who owns Moretsky Law. Mr. Moretsky details his role as a lawyer and how he helps people. He also explains how lawyers help our society. Without them, there will be major chaos. Mr. Moretsky explains the type of law he practices and how being a lawyer impacts his life.
So generally speaking, I'm a business lawyer. I work with businesses, mainly small businesses. I also work with individuals who own businesses. I help businesses incorporate, which means form. I also help people and businesses sell when they're ready to retire or they're ready to move on. I draft a lot of paperwork. I also go to court a considerable amount when there are disputes. A lot of times there are contracts. One party doesn't pay the other for goods or services, or they have a dispute as to what the meaning of something in a contract is and they can't agree on it. So I either represent the plaintiff or the defendant. It impacts my life considerably. I mean, besides the fact that a large part of my identity is wrapped up in my profession, it's also very grinding and it takes a lot of time. So I'm oftentimes working late into the day or into the night, and that affects my home life. But the profession also affects me because it helps me stay. I feel like it helps me stay sharp because it's a very challenging profession. So I'm always learning something new. I'm always honing my skills. And one thing I like very much about it is that it's not boring. I don't do the same thing over and over and over again.
He also details who would be impacted the most if he quit his job.
That's a really challenging question. My clients would definitely be impacted because they would have to look for somebody else to do the work that I do. And I think I have a good relationship with my clients. So for them having to find somebody else would be a challenge. My family would also be impacted because I'm sure they'll be happier to have me home earlier. But at the same time, I'm not sure what I would do instead.
So, what would happen if lawyers did not exist?
The question made me think of the portion from Richard III by Shakespeare, where he said that if you want chaos, first thing we do is kill all the lawyers. So without the lawyers, you're going to have, society would not run nearly as smoothly. Of course, there are many who claim that because of lawyers, society doesn't run nearly as smoothly, but beware of those people. There are certainly examples of that where lawyers unnecessarily muddle things. But overall, I think the benefits of lawyers greatly outweigh the negatives.
The essential workers we spoke to represent some of the jobs that help keep society functional. Medical workers keep society healthy. Public and professional services help the world stay well connected, and educators lead the next generations. If they quit, would it change the world?